love our new little commercial
I
there,
love it.
Dave.
That was slick. That was really nice.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, everyone. I have the one and only Dave Oates with me today. We've been friends for probably 10 years or so. You're a former U.S. Navy officer, and you are all about crisis PR and crisis communication. And we're going to talk about internal dysfunction going public, your specialty. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing great. Doing great. Thank you. Well, let's dive right in. So we met a long time ago by happenstance. I sat next to you at something, and now we're great friends. We got to work together pretty quickly because we did have a public crisis client, lots of complaints about harassment, and the CEO wasn't handling it very well. So that's we got to work together. So let's just dive right in. Let's talk about preventative measures first. So what the heck, Dave? How can, and there's so many opportunities for employees to share whatever they want, be it true or not.
Yep.
What do you do? How do you help with that?
So the preventative side, I think, is less about communications and more about leadership strategies, right? It's more about HR strategies, more about leadership strategies. And my edict has always been, since my Navy days, is management by walking around. Give employees an opportunity with an open door policy that you actually mean, that you actually follow, to address issues as they come up. The reason a lot of employees, if not all of them, will turn to Glassdoor, Indeed, Yelp, Google, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, or whatever to complain about their boss, their company, their employer, and so forth, is because they don't feel like they've got an outlet internally to do so. They feel disenfranchised. They feel voiceless. They feel powerless. And now with these wonderful little mobile devices that we all carry around, we have the opportunity to vent at a moment's notice in the comfort of our own familiar surroundings and do so very publicly, very quickly. And because we have connections that are meaningful, typically on our social media platforms, people will take what we say very much to heart and comment and share and can you believe Lisa, Lynn, Bob, Jeff, whatever, has got to deal with this. That's a load of crap. Can't believe they've suffered from that. And the next thing you know, you as the employer are now fielding inquiries, probably from other people who are sort of tangential to you, going, man, I saw this rant about you. What's going on? And you're the last person to know about it. So if you can give people an outlet through, tried and true HR practices and leadership practices to raise issues beforehand, be part of solving that internally, make them feel like they actually matter and can raise concerns, you'll reduce a lot of that, even if some of those concerns are ones that you don't feel like you should address, or ones that you feel like, the employee's just wrong. This is why we do things. But if you have open dialogue and you can explain that, even when you have to draw the line and you have to push back, you can do so in a way that people still feel understood and still feel valued for contributing for that. And these are basic things, but ones in which, particularly for leaders who are working on the business as much as they're working, or in the business, as much as they're working on the business, you kind of lose sight of that because you're knee deep in this little laptop device, churning
on LinkedIn Live, trying to do this.
And you're freaking out, and somebody comes in saying, hey, I got an issue. Yeah, I'll get to it later. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And it's a surefire way of getting a pissed off employee who's willing to rant on some.
That's a great point. We have our phones. You could be at Starbucks and decide you're annoyed at your boss or whoever, and just while you're waiting for them to call your name, get in Facebook. And we do tend to just say what we want to say. And because we can like things and comment, and I always say, I've read research that social media has created kind of an extra layer of narcissism, because today's my kid's last day of school. Of course, I'm going to post, last day of school, la, la, la. And then people are going to like it and comment and, oh, they've grown up and all this stuff. And then you develop this sense of like importance because people are commenting on everyday life. And I think it just feeds into this, like, we just kind of get on there and like, I'm going to tell the world about this because why wouldn't I? And then you got Glassdoor that a lot, people really look at Glassdoor before they apply, or they might apply and before the interview decide, never mind. And so it's really detrimental if you're not giving people that voice. And that's a great point. Give them the voice internally so they don't feel the need to say it somewhere else.
No, 100%, right? I'm not a psychologist, but I'll play one on LinkedIn right now. So the endorphins in social media world, right? It's like we love the likes, like we're checking, we put a post and then like we sit there and then a minute later we check and see how do we get likes and shares, or we get, we get the banner that pops up on our phone. It's legit. And so if we're feeling disenfranchised, discredited, disassociated at our workplace, all we got to do, we don't even have to leave the office desk, the little cubicle. We just have to turn to our little phone and tweet while we're at work and go do that to get the endorphin hits that we feel like we're lacking here. So I agree with you. It's instantaneous. And so there's no filter. There's no sense of sort of grounding. And I think managers and leaders have to understand that you are first and foremost communicators. I don't care what your task is. I don't care what skill set you have, whether it's technical or business related. You have to communicate with people to get things done. Whether you're a 5-person shop or a 5,000-person shop, that is the common theme. So if you are not spending part of your day communicating and also listening to other people's concerns and all of that, you run the serious risk that no matter how good you are at your craft, you may be the best coder that ever existed. Claude's got nothing on you, right? Or things like that. You might be the best operations in restaurant world or education or whatever industry. If you're not communicating with people, you're only going to go so far, and they will undermine you because they don't feel like they're a part of it, a part of the culture, right? Part of the workplace, part of the vibe. It's just a job, right? The adage is, I only work here. Well, that's because they don't feel connected with that. You have an opportunity to do so. And if you don't, they'll take to Insta, TikTok, Snapchat,
all the things.
LinkedIn.
You said open door policy. So I wanted to mention that because we talk a lot about that too, that it's really open ear policy. And just to give a real example of that, we had a client who also happened to be a PR firm. And the president and CEO both were two of the most offensive people I've ever come across. And the president, she loved to say that, the president, well, I'm open door. Look, my office is right there. People can walk right in. And I'm like, yeah, but you're pretty defensive when I speak to you and I don't work here and you've paid me to give you advice. So you don't really want to listen. I mean, I certainly said it nicer, but and I told her, if I'm your employee and this is how you respond, I'm just going to stop coming in here. So you're not listening. So it's not the door, it's what you do, with that information.
Open ear policy. I'm going to start using that. That's genius. And how many have said doors always open? And somebody's like, there's no way I am going to actually walk into that person's office because I'm not going to be the one who gets flame sprayed. No, by the way, then that boss, that CEO, that employee puts a tick mark by my name, at least in my head, that when it comes to the next review, or God forbid, especially in the PR world, you lose a client, now you got to lay off somebody. I'm in. I get it. By the way,
I have another question for you. Sorry, go ahead. You go.
Sometimes PR people are the worst. My worst boss 20 years ago was an over PR firm. God, this woman was horrible at communicating for the same reason. She was defensive all the time. Oh my God.
You're a professional communicator. What's
professional communicator sometimes can't communicate.
Yeah, the CEO used to love to say, this is my company. I'm like, you're right, but you can't say that in a staff meeting because while it is your company, everybody knows that. You can't just stake that, say that and put the flag in we know it's your company, but employees work here. They feel a part of it and they want to feel heard. I wonder, so I'm curious, you have kind of a stat on this. This is a little off the cuff, but that client we worked with together, what
Yeah.
had happened was the females had filed, 5 females had filed a complaint, and a year went by and nothing had happened. So the company sort of forced them. I mean, they held all of that in and kept it contained for about a year, and then nothing was happening. So they actually were strategic about it and said, all right, well, if you're going to ignore me, then I'm going to make it so you can't ignore me. And they used PR essentially as a way to get the company to care. Is that fairly common? I mean, we're talking about kind of the snarky, I'm annoyed right away things, but do employees do that sometimes where they're really logical and strategic about it?
That's the only circumstance I have seen that happen.
Oh, okay.
Look, we're dealing with emotions, right? We're dealing with people, and we're dealing with emotions, and we're dealing with their sense of self, right? Sense of self-worth, sense of identity. And
Yeah.
we become wildly irrational beings. If they literally waited a year and said, okay, this isn't working, I've got to get the attention. No one up the chain of command, and my boss, the CEO, and then the board of directors or whoever else is overseeing the CEO, investors or so forth, are going to take notice on that one. That I'm going to do that. That's really well thought out. And I'm sorry they were put in a position that they felt that was their only recourse.
I kind of thought, good for you guys.
Most people, right? 100%. Most people won't. First off, they won't give you a year. And secondly, they'll scream and holler. And depending on how ticked off they are, they will be, there's always other things to the story, right? So whatever's been building up for a while, will determine how fast somebody is going to post and shout and scream and holler from that. There might be in some circumstances, and maybe even half, I would just theorize that, employees might hesitate to post something for fear of retribution, right? Fear their boss or their boss is going to catch wind of it because somebody's going to point out, hey, did you see, so-and-so's post?
Or I'm pretty sure that was you. Yeah.
But beyond that, I think some people are going to be like, I don't care at this point, right? I don't give a shit. Bring it on. What are they going to do? Fire me? Fine. I'm looking for a job anyway. Get me out of here. So I don't think they're going to give you that amount of time, which is why open ear policy, I swear to God, I'm using that now moving forward.
That's
and being authentic and genuine. We talked about this. The phrase that I use, and I didn't coin this, is leaders and communicators by extension must be confidently vulnerable. Mm-hmm. And I say that term because you have to be vulnerable enough to know that, look, I don't see everything. I don't hear everything. I don't know everything. Mm-hmm. I have people here for a reason. I need to hire right. And I need to create a culture that allows for this communication, this dialogue, this empowerment of people. And in so doing, they're going to not only tell me about issues that they're having, but they're going to tip me off on opportunities that will make the organization even better. And so leverage that, right? Don't be so concerned that somebody is going to continually take a pot shot at you just because you're the boss, or that you have to be the smartest person in the room. If you can get out of your own head and out of your own ego, this is really actually a good thing when somebody comes to you saying, I got a problem, because they care. There was the owner of the Boston Red Sox for a while back. I can't remember that. I remember he was asked a question about all sports radio and callers coming in, bitching about the Red Sox and about how bad they were doing. He said, doesn't that really get on your nerves? He goes, no. He says, it's when they stop talking about you is when I've got a problem, right? Because that's his customer base. Like, that means they don't care. They're not buying tickets. They're not coming to games. They're so forth. Same thing internally. If people aren't coming to you with issues and opportunities, that means they don't care. Yeah. That means they're just there for the paycheck. And the moment they find another opportunity, they're gone. Yeah. And you're right. Yes, that CEO, that firm, I'm the owner here. Great. Good luck running all the client work by yourself.
Yeah, that's what I would say to him. I'm like, you need them for clients. Like, what? And he kind of was like, no, I mean, I could do it myself if they all quit. Like, well, then why do you Anyway, enough about him. Actually, I was thinking as you were talking that change management and PR are kind of similar here too, because a lot of, if a company says we're being acquired or we're changing a software system that we use, or any sort of kind of big change, requires a whole lot of communication, and a lot of companies really, really miss the mark on that. And it's a similar thing of really teaching managers how to own it and be able to say, I don't know, but let me go back to whomever and get the answer. And I remember reading an article once about some company, I don't even remember what it was, but they talked about in this article I read that the CEO had an email that was like questions@whatever.com. And people could, if you heard a rumor about something, you sent it to that email. And every Friday, the CEO himself would send an email to the whole company to say, here are the rumors I heard, here, this one's true. Here's what's happening. I can't answer this right now for certain reasons.
100%.
This is false. That was like, I thought, how brilliant. And I think a lot of companies should do that.
Calling the elephant in the room is the best way to do so, right? It's just, and you give people two things. One is you give them a sense that you are confident enough, again, being confidently vulnerable, that you're willing to have those type of conversations. And two is that you're on it, right? You're on it. And if you convey it with great empathy, hey, I know how this probably affects you, just either throws you into concern, you're now got a lot of questions, I get it, let me see if I can address that, gives them a feeling that you care and that you're on it, right? The worst thing you can do is to say nothing, or that's a vicious rumor and it's not true. And here's okay, well then say why it's not true. Don't be angry about it, because if you're angry about it, somebody thinks there's a there. Yes, right. You said verbally it's not true, but your body language tells me something entirely different. Because if it wasn't true, why are you so upset about it? Why are you so ticked off about something not being true? And how it works. It's like, just then get over yourself and tell us what it is and let's move on with it, right?
Yeah, I love watching the news when somebody's, being asked, like Clinton, I did not sleep with that woman, but like, did he look right in the camera or did he look to the side?
And actually he had one of the political operatives that talked about that afterwards when he did a 180, a few months, maybe it was about a month later or something like that. When they said people will forgive the transgression, they will not forgive the lying, right? And this is where I go back to the confidently vulnerable, and politics aside from that one, because Clinton's one of the things. I can go with Trump every day of the week and twice on Sunday, and then every other people with politicians, but business owners and everything like that it's not the issue of you screwing up. Yeah, it's going to be painful. People are going to be shocked. They're going to be disappointed. But if you come forward with it and you are vulnerable enough to say, this is what I missed and this is why, or this was my screw up, I own it, I'm sorry, there will be consequences, there'll be things you have to pay. But by and large, right, with some exceptions, nearly everyone will give you a second chance. People love a good comeback story. It's the lying, it's the cover up, it's the feeling that you were trying to just get away with it, that draws people ire, and then it's the inability to actually go and fix what it is that went wrong, right? To go make amends for that went wrong. And look, I don't speak from a moral authority, right? I'm in my solidly late 50s now, and I live in a very large glass house, I figured out, and so I keep my stone throwing ammunition to a minimum, right? I have my flaws. We're human beings. We are not perfect species. And so we are going to screw up. Yeah. Most of the time it's without intention or with blind spots, right? And we're not malicious in our deal, but we screw up. The more you can own it to your employees, first and foremost, and then to everybody else, the more chances you have to actually get people to endear yourself. Oh, he owned it. My bad. I'm going to go fix this right now. I'll correct this. And most people will, but you're going to still get some haters. Yeah. And the problem is that we only listen to the haters. I just worked with an influencer who had a misstep, corrected it, and she got 40,000 likes on her apology in TikTok and Instagram. 40,000 likes. People liked it. And she got 4,000 screaming haters who
Yeah.
commented.
Yeah.
She focused on the 4,000 screaming haters, 1/10 of the overall, people who supported that. Because I think that's just human nature. And when it's internally, when it's with staff, when staff are griping, and you're interacting with those individuals in person or virtual every day, that's an even tougher shell to break, because we keep our defenses up, particularly with people who you feel like you have to be the smartest person in the room. You have to be right all the time.
Yeah, I'm the leader.
No, you don't. Right?
Can we talk more about that? So on Glassdoor, in the HR world, it's kind of like, if you get, the basic advice, if you see something bad on Glassdoor, you should comment on it and say things like, thanks for letting us know, we'll look into it. Don't try to argue. But what are, beyond that kind of simple tip, like what should you be doing externally if things are on social media or there's a news article? Like what does an employer do in that scenario online?
So in various circumstances, right? Let's take the Glassdoor. Let's take a review from an employee, and I put in quotes because sometimes they're not, right? But if you have something that's an employee and they're making us think about something and it's specific enough, you obviously have to respect the employee privacies, but you can respond by not only saying, hey, thanks very much for this, we appreciate it. Say, and then explain, at least in general terms, these are the processes of things that we undertake for this one there. And these are the things that we would want to correct. So we appreciate you bringing this to our attention, but give a little bit more context as to what you're going to do about it. Like, we're going to take a look at this, and here's our policy and practices. Like, these are the things that matter to us, and just let it be there. But what you've got to do is you have to not only create empathy in that situation for somebody who's, complaining, and by saying, thanks, we'll look into this, but give them at least some sort of understanding as to what action you're taking. Because if you don't have action with empathy, it's just empty words. If you talk about action and no empathy, you don't care, then it's just empty promises. And so it's, it's empty actions. Like, you don't really care anyway. You're just going through the motions now. And so you have to have both. I don't care what the scenario is for any organization, whether it's internal employee chatter or it's an external matter. You have to just express empathy and action in the responses. And so, to your second question about articles or things of that nature that come out there, I would submit to you that if an organization knows that an article is coming out and it's not favorable for whatever reason, the first thing you want to do is preempt that with an announcement to staff. Always staff first. I don't care if it's a matter that's not internal. Let staff know what's going on, because they are going to help you amplify your message to the external audiences. So when you talk to customers, you talk to business partners, you talk to investors, if you're nonprofit donors, if you're in education, students or other faculty or region, whatever the case may be, if they call in and your staff fields an inquiry, and that inquiry is something like, man, I just saw this article, what's going on? And that employee says, I have no idea what's going on. No one's talked to me.
Yeah.
Everything you've said publicly gets undercut, because now it looks like
that's true. Yeah. People or friends are going to, David, I saw it at SDSU where you work, this article. And so, like, friends and family are going to post it and share it and ask you. So you want the good answer. That
totally right. It's absolutely essential. So those articles, preempt those. Tell people what's going on. Tell people how it came about. Tell people what it is that you responded to the article, but also what you're going to do about it, right? And then when the article comes out, if necessary, it doesn't happen most of the time, but if necessary, you may want to send out a clarifying point. Hey, now that we know the article's out and here's what it said, here's a couple of other points I want to make with you. But the reason things sometimes become a crisis is because they have an element of surprise. You're shocked by an accusation, a revelation, or a news article. And when you're the last person to talk about it, it becomes even more of a crisis, because now somebody's heard a third party. It's like, hey, did you hear about Catherine and so like this? It was like, no, she didn't tell me anything. I just saw her at a meeting yesterday, right? That becomes even more of a, I should call her and ask her, right? And it's just, or if somebody says, hey, did you hear about, oh yeah, she told me about this crazy client who told her I'm the boss, and it's like, it doesn't even work for her and all that sort of stuff. And it's all good to go, right? It's like, I get it. Right. So now I can back you up, right? Now I can, be in your corner. And so that's the thing that I would suggest any owners or executives do over any circumstances. But I want to reiterate, no matter the crisis, we've been talking a lot about employee chatter. Do talk to your staff members first about the crisis. Bring them in as part of the team. They will help you, again, amplify your message. And I have seen far too many times organizations do the reverse. They put out the press release first. They post on their social media feeds. They tell maybe a couple of key clients, and nobody internally has a clue what's going on. And that is the absolute wrong way to do it. You have to start with employees and work your way out.
I remember when we worked together too, you talked about the kind of gotcha questions. And so should that be part of it too, as you're telling your employees what's going on, to kind of prep them with, you might get questions about X, Y, and Z, and here's the answer? Or does that come across as you trying to kind of control things?
Yeah, I think the latter. So to your point, I always prep, executives and leadership and the clients I serve with what I call answers to the gotcha questions, right? So something breaks, you're announcing something, or somebody finds out through third party, there's going to be questions from your stakeholders, right? Again, employees, customers, clients, donors, the whole 9 yards. And you're going to want to be prepared for those questions. Those questions often contain a bias, even subconsciously, that something was missed maliciously or somebody did it because of negligence or ignorance. And so those questions tend to have a little biting, tense tone to them. And I prep the leaders to be ready for those so they don't get caught on their heels of their feet, be shocked, and then they get defensive, right? Because now somebody's calling their personal integrity into question, even if it's just sort of indirectly, and you want to be prepared for those. So I have answers to the gotcha questions that allow you to be truthful in the response, stay on your key messages, stay on point, stay focused on the empathy and the action you must convey, and the follow-up for that one there. When it comes to sort of briefing employees, I don't think you have to do that, other than to say, look, if you get a question that you're just, that's jarring, that's accusatory or something like that, by all means, call for backup. Bring it up the chain. Tell them, hey, that's a great question. Let me get somebody on the line, or let's set up another conversation so that leaders can answer those, right? And I see that. I will say this, if organizations are proactive in their conversations, right? If they're the ones who break the news directly to employees, to customers and all that, you find that a lot of those tense, acrimonious, type of conversations you might have with audiences go away. At least you diminish those, because you go, hey, thanks for letting me know. I appreciate that. That really sucks. Yeah, I'm disappointed, but let's talk about how we get to a solution, right? You've given, it's just like we were taught as kids and then didn't do it, right? When we did something wrong, go to your parents, don't wait it out, don't avoid it, right? Because it doesn't get better the longer you wait. Because if they find out because the teacher called or sent a note home, or all of a sudden another parent said, hey, yeah, my kid was with your kid at this thing. Did you hear what happened? And mom and dad go, no. That's not going to go over well for you, right? So that's it's the same adage that we were taught as kids and didn't learn.
I feel pressure to admit publicly that I stole a little plastic bracelet from Mervyn's when I was probably 5. And my mom found it because I had asked her if I could get it. She said no, and then I had it.
And so you did it.
She drove me right back to Mervyn's and made me go up to the lady, the cashier. I stole this, and the lady was kind of like, I don't care. My mom's like, I'm private teacher.
Oh, well, I think the statute.
One transgression. Other than that, I'm perfect and innocent. I swear.
That transgression is certainly past the statute of limitation, considering Mervyn's has been out of business for a few years.
I still feel guilty about it, though. Look at me here.
So actually, thank you for bringing that up, because let's take that back to the business circle for a second, right? I think what happens is we harbor such guilt and shame as to an action that we did, that we want to be defensive. We want it to go away. We're like, oh my God, I promise. Dear God, if you just get me through this, I promise I will always be good. I'll never do this again, blah, 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 And we do that oftentimes. And I think the hardest thing in those moments when we've screwed up is admitting we screwed up, making amends, and then forgiving ourselves for that, especially when it was unintended, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe we lost our head. Like, I got to do this. because we need this client to come in, and I screwed it up, or I made a rash decision because I was thinking short term. Hey, look, we've all been there.
Yeah.
And it's hard sometimes because we still harbor that guilt from years ago.
I know you were talking and I was like, he knows I have to.
Oh my God. Right. I mean, I tell people, most people, right, especially people who are successful, we give ourselves even less of a break than we give others, right? The thing, like you told me about the bracelet sold, and I was chuckling, right? And I was chuckling out of empathy, like different things that I did, in my time period. And at one moment, like, did anybody think anything worse of you? No. But you do, right? It's still in your head, right? We do that to ourselves. We're
out of time. But I want to add one last thing, because I do see we have one client right now that's doing this especially really badly. When we do workforce surveys, it's like the leader has bought into, okay, we need a survey to understand what's going on. And sometimes you can feel them, they see the results and they really hone in on trying to control the narrative. And it's kind of fascinating psychology, as you mentioned, like, because what I have to say to them is employees already know this. They're the ones who said it, right? So you can try to like put your head in the sand all you want, but that is not the best option for you. So I have to kind of give some of that crisis PR advice and just to help them see, like, the cat's already out of the bag. They already talk about this stuff. They, the 80% of people said X, and they talk about it. So many of them agreed or disagreed with this statement. And so we have one right now she keeps emailing for more details. What about this? Break down this for me. And what she's trying to do is control it. And it's like, you just got to own it and say, okay, we have some problems and we're going to fix them. And that's the answer.
It's hard to do, right? It's the operative word of being confidently vulnerable and seeing it for what it is, and recognizing that if you own it as much as the others see it, you will be better for it in the long run. It's a short-term pain for long-term benefits. I promise you, it doesn't get better. In fact, it only gets worse, and sometimes irreparable the longer you wait. But if you're willing to take the short-term hit, you will actually endear yourself far more to team members than you ever thought possible. So it's confidence. The confidence.
So you've got a phrase from me and I've got a phrase from you. So
open ear policy. I'm taking
vulnerable. I like it. Thank you very much. Well, thanks all for joining. Jenny put the SHRM activity ideas for you. And thanks again, Dave. Always a pleasure to chat with you. And thanks all. We'll see you next time.